Welcome to the Atomic Impact Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Osborn. And on this podcast, we interview successful business owners for them to share atomic, impactful lessons that they've learned throughout the course of their business and share them with us so that we can learn from their learnings as well. As always, this show is sponsored by the LinkedIn Reverse Podcast Method, the new way to close deals that doesn't rely on any of the old traditional methods that everybody hates. We use this method to book 26 qualified leads and sales calls in 10 days without any of the old outreach spins on ad spend and outreach and endless social media posting. To find out more, direct message me on LinkedIn to have a chat. That's Jason A. Osborn. The link to that will be in the show notes below. But on today's show, our special guest is Steve Woods. He's the owner of Steve Woods Hypnotist, and he provides hypnosis to help groups and individuals perform better in business, sport, and life. So, Steve, welcome to the show. And I want to start off with a question that I always love starting off with, which is this. If you somehow were able to go back and when you first started your business, but knowing what you know now, what would you do differently in the first 12 months?
That's a really good question, Jason. Well, thank you, first of all, for having me on. It's great. It's a pleasure to be here. What would you do different? I suppose I come from that time where you didn't have a business. You went to school, you got your qualifications, and you got a job, and maybe you'd either work to get a business, or you'd be really rubbish at your job and you would start a business. So I come from that era. So I think, yeah, looking back now, I would go into business much sooner. Although I've had some quite cool jobs, I have to say, where I've worked for the people. But yeah, I'd go into business sooner, and I would be full on with it as well, because with what I do, it does tend to be quite a part-time thing. You slowly build up and slowly build up. But actually, I'd have saved up my money and I'd have gone, right, let's go all in, and let's have enough money to live on for a year or 2 years, and let's just go for it. That would be my advice I would give to my younger self, and probably the advice I'd say to my son really now, because he's looking around at jobs. It's like, but do what you love. If you want to start your own business, let's do it.
Yeah, definitely. I'm the same way. Just get into it for sure, because it can make a massive difference. Is there anything that you would do differently in those first 12 months, though? Like anything that you learned on whether it's how you market or business systems or anything that you think, man, if I could go back and start and just do it differently, I would do this because it'd make it so much easier.
Yes, it took me a long time to discover networking. It took me a long time to do things like we're doing. It didn't take me quite as long, but it still took me quite a while to start doing demos. I think with what I do, you have to experience it. People want to experience it. They don't know about it. They've never met a hypnotist. So I'd have gone full on with talks and demos. I'd have got a lot more networking. I was going to mind, body, spirit shows and fairs and basically selling myself, which worked. But it didn't work well enough. It didn't give me that launch to really get going and really sort of hit the ground running. So yeah, it's definitely more of that relationship building, the networking side of it, and as I say, talks and demonstrations to groups.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. As you've grown and as you said that you've done a lot of networking and connecting with people and things like that and selling yourself, so that people, and also just giving people the experiences and trials of it so they can experience it. What's been the hardest part of scaling in what you're doing without coming across as salesy or spammy?
It is difficult because I think anybody doing what I do, again, you tend to be you. It's just you. And there's so many different ways of people learning how to do this. Nobody else does it the same as you as well. So it's the best way to scale is groups. It's recordings, it's downloadable things as well. They're very low end scalable, but they do scale ultimately. And I'm slowly building a nice library of those. So yeah, again, I'd have probably thought a lot more around that earlier on. I love doing these podcasts because you come away thinking, yeah, I should have done that, and I should have done that. But yeah, I'd have. We go into business because we enjoy doing what we do, not necessarily because we want to scale it and make it into a business that could live without us. Again, in my world, that's quite difficult to do because the business is me, but it is possible to scale because if you're going from working one-to-one with somebody to now working with teams of 20, 30, 40, 50, and you're doing corporate work on sales performance and things like that, then that makes a massive difference now. And it makes it much more much more lucrative, really. If we're blunt, it's going from a business point of view. The
Yeah.
businesses are going to certainly pay a lot more money than just working with a one-to-one.
Yeah, yeah. And you kind of mentioned something earlier where you said it took you a while to really learn the whole networking side of things. I've always been very much a big believer in relationship-led lead generation and things. So when you look at that aspect of the relationship side, what's the one thing that you changed in how you build relationships so it makes the whole sales process and lead generation process easier for you?
I was one of those people who went networking initially when I was first introduced to it to sell, and I would try and sell, and I would come across as salesy, and I'd go a couple of times, maybe even only go once. If I hadn't sold anything, if I hadn't any new clients or a big referral into a business or something, then I wouldn't go back. So I think, the learning there was that it is about relationships, it is about giving, it is about referrals and connecting people as well. And I now get referrals, again, mostly individuals, but it's still referrals that are coming in from people I've networked with years ago, 10 years ago. I probably moved from Mind, Body, Spirit fairs to networking. Yeah, it probably would be 10, 12 years ago. And I still get those connections. So it was to change that complete viewpoint, never to go. I did, but never to go now with I want to sell I want to get two clients today, two one-to-one clients, because it doesn't work that way. And people don't like to be sold to at the end of the day. It's
Mm.
built into us. I do a lot of personal follow-up phone calls when people do a workshop with me. They leave their details and I will phone them. And I get really often people go, "I thought you were a spam call." I thought, because that's just what we're used to now. People trying to sell to us all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Particularly, I think in this day and age, because it's so rare that we actually get a phone call from someone. It's usually, a message or WhatsApp message or someone that we know calling us on WhatsApp or something like that, or, or a pre-scheduled Zoom call, but just an out of the blue call. People are like, what's this? Um, so
Suspicious.
yeah, it is. It is for sure. Yeah. Well, one of the things I also love to ask, Steve, is around the challenges we've had in business, because I know that as business owners, we all go through challenges, and oftentimes we can feel like we are the only one that's going through it, or gosh, is this only happening to me? And so it's great to just be able to hear what our challenges are, and as people listen to the different recordings of the podcast, it's like, oh, right, yeah, they deal with that stuff as well. So having said that, what's the number one biggest challenge that you have faced in your business so far, and what's the lesson that you've learned from that?
I was going to say, and I probably still will say, it is that roller coaster of feast and famine when you're particularly in the early days, because you get some clients here and you're busy working with them, and then because you're not doing the marketing at that stage, because now I'm really busy and I might be skipping networking groups, I'm so busy. And then you come out the other end of it, of course, and then there's nobody there to work with, and you've got to start spinning the wheels up and try and get that marketing going, really. And I think and that's often what I work with clients as well, as it turns out. So sometimes I can, give advice on that, but most of the time we know what we should be doing. We know that we should be still marketing, and we should make ourselves go networking. It should be as important as a sales meeting. So that's the lesson, really, to learn from it. And I'm sure you've had people say probably exactly the same before as well. It's that roller coaster is definitely the challenge. There's only so many hours in the day, and at the end of the day.
Mm. What have you implemented to kind of mediate that feast and famine, the roller coaster? Because I know that's the ultimate goal for every business is, there's always going to be ups and downs and stuff, but is there anything to do kind of level that out a little bit more so it's not quite as, the polarity between that feast and famine isn't as strong?
Yes, a couple of things really. I think a change in mindset, so that I approach the marketing side, the networking side differently now. It is as important as a sales meeting. If I was in a business and I've got a sales team, I wouldn't skip the sales meeting because I was thinking I was busy. That would be really important. So shifting mindset that way as well, and steadily raising the prices as well. So actually, I don't need to see as many clients because I was underpriced. I was undercharging in those early days. It's a very strange world, the therapeutic world. I mean, which is why I class myself as working more in performance, because it is the pounds or dollars per hour world quite generally, and that's not the best practice to have. because then you're comparing with other things where, 20, 25, 30 pounds an hour, $50 an hour, those sorts of things. And then you've got to work really hard and you've got to be really busy to actually make it a business that then you try and scale as well. And you can't scale it because you haven't got time. You haven't got time to do the recording. You haven't got time to go and door knock. So yeah, changing pricing, but also that shift in mindset. Probably as a hypnotist, the shift in mindset was probably the most important bit.
Yeah. I love your answer around that. And I think it's really interesting what you said around change your pricing. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, because oftentimes I think there's the challenge around that, because people think, oh, I can only charge so much, and I think it's different in different industries and different types of businesses, but particularly for like coaches, consultants, or like yourself, a hypnotist. Yeah, someone can probably go to a hypnotist and find someone for 20 quid an hour or whatever. But as you said, I mean, that's a hard slog doing it that way. So what have you found to help your mindset to be able to charge, I'm assuming, premium pricing, without thinking, oh God, no one would ever pay that? And what has the realization actually been for you in that journey?
I suppose the technique is self-hypnosis. It's being able to sit down as I would with a client and work on myself. That's my technique. That's my method behind having that confidence and that belief to change it. But it's also looking at results for people, where they particularly in business world, if suddenly now this client's able to make those 10 cold calls or whatever the process is, or go networking with confidence, and they're able to do those things, then actually that's making a monetary difference now to their business. Probably an awful lot more than what they'd be paying me. I've also met therapists who, they're starting out, and I was a bit like that when although I charged quite a lot when I first started out, and then brought it down because I didn't feel as I was busy enough in those early days. Even though I wasn't making any more money now, because I was just really busy all day. But I meet lots of therapists who are working that way, and it's not sustainable. You're not going anywhere. You're just going in, you're doing your job, one client, and yeah, you're never going to get out of that rut. So part of it was, as I say, realizing that, but actually, as I say, there was the mindset side of it myself. And so hypnosis is one of those things you can work on yourself once you know how to do it, as well as actually paying somebody else to work with you, which is often easier. But yeah, there are ways of doing that. So shifting the mind.
Yeah, and you're 100% correct. And I love what you're saying with this, Steve. I have a client who is an osteopath, and she charges anywhere between 175 and 300 pounds per session, for a 45-minute session, which is unheard of as an osteopath, and she's lined up with clients. And it's just the way she changed it, the way she approached it differently, the uniqueness of the way she does it. And it's like, and then she even does these high-end concierge weeks where she's charging anywhere between 2,000 and 15,000 a week for these private concierge weeks. So it's like there is so much more out there. We just have to change our mindset on the way to approach it and think outside the box or stuff. So I love that. It's a great example. Well, over the next 2 to 3 years of your business, what are your goals? What would you like to achieve?
I think, just touching on what you're saying as well, sure, then from, again, the mindset point of view, pricing wise, results as well are different. If you're charging £20 an hour, people are going to take a lot longer to get to that result because and they miss sessions and they're not committed to it. But if somebody's paying you £500 an hour, they're going to be there. They're not going to skip that. They're going to be there, and they're going to be invested, and the headspace is going to be, I'm going to make this work. So yeah, just really, so again, whatever that is, whether that's what I'm doing or physical work as well. So yeah, it makes a massive difference. So next 2-3 years, I'm working at the moment on that corporate side of it. I do a lot of work in golf. So I'm sort of raising that level of golfer that I work with, same with the business side individually. But I am doing quite a lot of work on, again, you're thinking about the scaling side of it. I'm 60 this year. I don't necessarily want to keep going at this pace for ever. So he's looking at what can I do. So it's either working with high level individuals where the results are quite dramatic for them. The golfer that's maybe winning lots of money, or the business person that's making lots of money as a result of that changing headspace, changing the mindset. But it's working with teams and groups as well. So I do some work around menopause where I'm going into companies, very different to performance work, but that's introducing me to some quite nice sized companies where I'm working with employees And that becomes a sustainable work then, because people want to do those sessions regularly, sleep sessions, stress sessions, and things like that. So yeah, that's, I can't duplicate myself. I do train other people to be hypnotists, and I am training somebody at the moment who I think we could potentially work together. So that might be quite nice as well. It depends on where they want to take it ultimately. But that's not really part of a fixed plan, but that could happen. So I say it is more of that getting into groups and getting into the business side.
Yeah, that's cool, man. That's really, really cool. For people that are wanting to find out a little bit more about you and get in touch, what's the best way for them to do that?
Absolutely. On most social media platforms, I'm at Steve Hypnosis. If you Google Steve Woods Hypnotist, then that should find me as well. It might take you to the golf page. My phone's just looked up there because it heard the word Google. So you might take you to my golf page, or it might take you into one of the other pages, but they all tend to interlink. LinkedIn, of course, is a great, you can find me on LinkedIn searching for Steve Woods Hypnotist as well. I do work quite a lot on LinkedIn. I do spend quite a lot of time on LinkedIn, messaging and interacting. So I think it's really important. So that's probably, from a business point of view, one of the quickest ways to get hold of me.
Amazing. Well, I definitely recommend everyone getting in touch with Steve if you find anything that he's spoken about to be helpful for you as well. Steve, thanks so much for being on the show and just sharing your experience in your business and the learnings that you have had throughout the course of running a business. And just really appreciate your time being on the show for that. And as a reminder for everyone listening, the show is sponsored by the LinkedIn Reverse Podcast Method, the new way to close deals that doesn't rely on any of the old traditional methods that we all hate. To find out more, direct message me on LinkedIn to have a chat. That's Jason A. Osborn. The link to that will be in the show notes below. And until next episode, stay inspired.